Alrighty everyone, welcome back. It is now December 16th of 2024, and given that the entire film industry and the media at that have been in constant freefall mode, we know that there's been a lot of things going on right now between those within the media like Jimmy Kimmel, ABC as a whole, that's run by the Walt Disney Company, and many different actors, actresses, directors, producers, etc., that are really now in the hot seat after really engaging in politics and really putting themselves in a bad position. Now, one of which has a lot to do with George Clooney. Now, we all know that he's been involved in a lot of drama in recent weeks after what happened in, of course, the past 6+ weeks, not just for George Clooney's case, but also for those out there like Robert De Niro and among others that really turned their backs against their fans and, of course, those that have followed their work for decades upon decades. Now, focusing on all of this, we know that George Clooney has been silent for a very long time. We also know that he has been very much angry toward a large portion of the media, playing the blame game and pointing the finger at him as to why he actually is being blamed for losing in 2024, and why, of course, we also have a lot of talk show hosts, such as those like Jimmy Kimmel and Jimmy Fallon, even putting George Clooney pretty much in the hot seat and pointing the finger at him. Now, what's interesting here about this has a lot more to do with Clooney's overall viewpoints on the general public and what's been going on with the overall backlash toward himself and how he's taking that. We know that he was fired by Warner Brothers that was actually supposed to create Ocean's 14 and a series of spin-off films at that have now been axed and no longer happening. They were going to pay him tens of millions of dollars all together that are now no longer moving forward. However, on top of everything here, with the entire film industry and the media now in freefall mode, since over 6 weeks ago, one monumental development that is now active involves more to do with George Clooney after he was fired by a major Hollywood studio, such as Warner Brothers. Now, it turns out that Clooney recently addressed his stance on the 2024 election loss, and after he was fired to set the record straight, Clooney delivered the following. There is a lot of blaming going around right now based on my view in politics and acting, and I find them to be very poor arguments and cruel points to be directed at someone like me. I think we are witnessing a trend of those that like to point the finger at celebrities and are trying to hold them responsible for why we did not win in 2024. I just don't find that to be the case, as it is a part of a delusion. There is no doubt about that. I think a large portion of the population in this country remains misinformed and uneducated, as some of my peers have pointed out with valid points. But to point the finger at talents like actors, producers, and directors, you have to look in the mirror and see how you appear when saying such things, and how this criticism bounces back to actors like myself that lose opportunities and roles because of these false narratives is something on a whole new level that needs to be addressed with every chance that we get for the next 4 years if we want to win back society and our way of life. This is no longer a competition, but a battle for our proper way to live and for those that want to embrace sexism and misogyny for the next 4 years. Well, then I don't know what else to tell you all. I think that people need to stop pointing the finger at celebrities that have a platform, and they have to come to the terms with the facts that these very same personalities have to follow a book of rules, since all eyes are on us, you know? You can have your regular Joe Schmo saying whatever he wants with no given facts about who was the cause of the 2024 loss, but it doesn't make it a fact. I have remained silent on this, and I promise not to talk about this too much, but we need to get rid of this obsession with DEI as being some kind of forced agenda onto the general public. Now, let me just pause here for 1 second about what George Clooney is spewing yet again. Now, he really hasn't been saying all that much after November 5th. We know that he came out once and blamed the public for believing their neighbors and how they should really embrace celebrities to really kind of give them their overall opinions because they follow a book of rules, quote unquote, as he likes to put it. This is typical George Clooney, who I think needs to stay out of our business and should just keep quiet in Italy, where he actually belongs. He doesn't even live here anymore, really, and we already know that George Clooney, at the end of the day, is in full meltdown mode. We know that he tried to get on Bill Maher, Real Time with Bill Maher. Bill Maher actually refused to have him on his show because George Clooney wanted to go on there to make a series of apologies, or at least his team was pressuring him to make a series of apologies. But on top of that, he also wanted to share his side of the story publicly on television. So what's interesting about this is that you have George Clooney seemingly doubling down on his agenda, on his viewpoints that didn't help him out to begin with a couple of weeks ago. And yet again, here we are, back at square one for George Clooney's case. It seems like he's only digging a bigger hole for himself that he's not going to be able to get out of. Now, what's interesting about this yet again is that we know that George Clooney, basically at the end of the day, doesn't know how to handle the overall situation. More and more studios want nothing to do with him anymore. We know that Warner Brothers fired him entirely. He lost all of those movie roles, Ocean's 14, and 3 spin-off films that were supposed to expand the Ocean's franchise into this Fast and Furious scaled franchise. They wanted to make it that big. For me, as far as I see things, Oceans as a franchise stopped at Ocean's 13 and should remain ended at that point. They should not even go with a 14. It especially was a disaster with Ocean's 8, to be honest with you. But moving onwards, he goes on to conclude, "No, everyone has that twisted. This is a right that people deserve to see in the film industry and in show business, and how that goes into the movies and TV shows that you witness today. Diversity, equity, and inclusion are the new stepping stones to a better future in this industry, and those on the right just want nothing to do with any of that, and it's quite a monstrous opinion to have, and how these false narratives, that of course is a bad thing, have forced some of these studios to close up their plans. And it's deeply disheartening to me as an actor, and especially one that gets involved in politics, because I think, like myself, everyone needs to be informed when it comes to politics and where your country is heading. Because right now, it's looking like a very dark place." So he's saying it's looking like a very dark place for the next 4 years. And these are the types of people, these are actors like George Clooney, that keep saying and spewing the same nonsense. They try to actually fearmonger, they try to put everyone in fear, when in reality, look, we know that the majority of people in the country, they wanted a different path, they wanted different results, and that's what we got. But at the end of the day, look, we know that George Clooney is not going to stop. We know that people like Robert De Niro, they're not going to stop with their overall agenda, even though they have remained quiet for a while, and they come out every now and again to spew out their typical lies. But at the same exact time, the fact that we have people turning their backs on people like George Clooney, Robert De Niro, we've had Sonny Hostin, we've had Bill Maher, we've had Whoopi Goldberg, even Joy Behar, really turning their back against George Clooney and Robert De Niro and among others out there. That, I think, is very telling and revealing, and look, it could be them just hopping on the bandwagon. I will be very honest about that. It could very well be something like that they just want to play nice right now so they don't get backlash. That could be the case. But at the same exact time, I think they have come to terms with the facts as well, that basically, at this point, they are put into a corner. They know that their careers are pretty much floundering, especially those like Joy Behar, Whoopi Goldberg, Sonny Hostin after the ratings disaster of The View via the ABC/Disney debacle. But anyway, I would like to hear what you all have to say about this below in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.